Hello, it's Cryptolyze. I hope you are well this Sunday, January 7, 2024. We're meeting today to talk about an important narrative. We're going to talk again about artificial intelligence because it's something that will be important in the U.S. macroeconomy 2024 and 2025. And I think that it will also play an essential role at the blockchain level. I will explain to you why it is important, why we can really make big profits from it, and above all the pitfalls to avoid because that there are still a lot of them. It starts right away. As I explained to you in yesterday's video, artificial intelligence will really be, I think, the bubble that will replace the internet bubble. We are going to come to the American macroeconomy at the level of the NASDAQ to giants around artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence will make it possible to boost the returns and performances, in fact, of all the big companies which are high-tech. And I think that there will be a big gain in productivity, which will therefore lead to certainly creating a form of FOMO, and which will allow the American economy and American industry to really explode. So through this bubble of artificial intelligence that we have already experienced a little bit at the beginning of 2023, for me, it is really the beginnings, I think, that we will have the rupture phase, which should not take long. And when we have this phase of disruption is where it risks being quite impressive. So we will have an impact at the level of the blockchain because obviously the cryptos, we don't forget that it's something that's very community-based and that there's a lot of room for speculation. And when we have a bubble that is created in the macroeconomy, imagine that this narrative will necessarily be transposed to the level of cryptos and in which we will go into hyper-speculation of projects which are close or not to artificial intelligence. And as we see here on the Total 3 generally, cryptos that are altcoins always have either overperformance or underperformance compared to BTC. So if we ever find ourselves in a bull run which is boosted by a bubble around artificial intelligence, that implies that we will go into hyper-speculation specific to artificial intelligence. But not only that. Also, you will see other elements, notably decentralized infrastructure. We will discuss them straight away by looking at the notion of outperformance. Already basic, we see that all cryptos do not necessarily have the same performance. This is the representation of the current price of BTC in which I compare the performance of altcoins compared to the price of BTC. And we see that we have a lot who are currently overperforming. Hop, we're going to select. You'll see TAC. We still have a bunch who are overperforming now. That's mixed because it broke. Totally. I made a video for you just before it broke. And we have everything that is underperforming and everything that is rather classic compared to BTC. So we actually have this image that we could represent as the state of the current alt season. I made you a video yesterday which explains to you how we still have a phase of the landing that we had here. Then afterwards we actually fell to the level of outperformance of many altcoins, which is rather normal because we have logical profit taking. And there we will have to base ourselves, for example, on a graphic typology like that to determine when we will enter a real alt season on strong narratives. This is where we will see 1, 2, 3, 4 cryptos, which fit into the same narrative and which will precisely enable the explosion. So I'm going to present several cryptos to you. Be very careful, because I'm going to explain to you why it's interesting, why it's not interesting. And above all, I'm going to give you concrete cases on real risks on certain cryptos. In this case, we will start straight away. The first will be Ocean. Ocean. I made a video for you not long ago on it, in fact, where I explained to you that it is something that will help with the transfer of information. We do not forget that data in the training of artificial intelligence is very complicated. It is even the most important, and the fact of having a decentralized way of recovering data and updating layout of the data, it's interesting. Besides, we find ourselves here in a rather classic retracement zone, which is a strong resistance zone. For me, we can go even lower here in the 039 to see if we have a real break on a sell the news of BTC. We can return to our zone below 020 to reinforce if that interests you. Then we are going to have a project. In fact, I will make a video for you on it, which is 00, in which you are going to have a blockchain. In any case, a solution, which is linked to privacy, security, and confidentiality, in which we have a notion of artificial intelligence which must be added, I say add. And this is where we begin to ask ourselves questions, in which, yes, we have core values which are specialized in privacy, in security, in confidentiality. And they put aside the implementation of artificial intelligence to facilitate the implementation of all these elements. In particular, we have an auditor who specializes in auditing smart contracts to determine whether or not there are vulnerabilities powered by artificial intelligence. We have a mixer, which is also linked to artificial intelligence to be able to mix the different transactions and preserve anonymity, which is very important. And then we will see, for example, a private index in which we can make exchanges without having any traceability. And then we have two things. A developer's hub, which is being built, which will be powered by artificial intelligence to be able to build rather simplified blocks and strata, and we have an anti-UG, which is an under construction. So there it is, a bit of a mix between the two, and technically we have already had a big valuation, but we have two zones which are interesting, in which we could wait for the 0.65 or even a little lower to strengthen themselves. However, we are still in a small market cap, but I will make you a specialized video on that, and we are already a little high, but without being too high, it is something that can relatively perform because we are between the two. Alongside, we have artificial intelligence with Ali, with Alatea. So there is a project which really specializes in character and personification, in which we create characters and animate them, and it is powered directly by the artificial intelligence with behind. Basically, the notion of digital identity. We have a diluted market cap, which is at 195 million. We are at 35 million dilutions, and we see that we have very strong downward pressure. It's not a blockchain that has exploded enormously. We can clearly see that since December, we have been in a phase of lateralization, or even a bearish breakout, despite the acceleration that we experienced on November 27. For me, we are in a big range, waiting to have a bullish exit. We are just retesting the middle of the range, for me, so we will have to monitor. Besides, we will necessarily have singularity, AGIX, so the same AGIX. It is a protocol which has a large community, which we'll discuss a lot. On the other hand, the products of AGIX, so I invite you to test them. It is really bad. Well, it's normal. These are products which are made available in the form of services for testing, but personally I would not be led to use them. It's really something which for me will be really linked to the hyper-speculation. It is not because we have a very strong utility that the token will perform. In fact, it is perhaps sometimes even the opposite. We can have a token which has no utility, but a lot speculation around the typology of the project or narrative. And so we have great performances. In any case, we started the retracement. We didn't make a major breakup structure, okay? So for the moment, we are more in a notion of retracement to go and retest lower. We have another project called Dynex. So here it's the same. It's really going to be the element for me to show you how much you have to be very careful. Dynex. Therefore, DNX, the token in which we are sold, that it is decentralized supercomputing. Please note, this is the first neuromorphic blockchain supercomputing based on proof of usual work. So there, it's really good in the sense that basically the concept is that mining is used to execute tasks like machine learning, deep learning, etc., and that it is used by big companies. Except that on the other hand, when we look a little bit at what's going on around it and the different analyses, in fact, there are a lot of questions being asked around DNX and Dynex to see whether or not it exists. When we look at the notion of neuromorphic supercomputing, we are still relatively far from what Dynex could offer. So for me, we have to be very careful with marketing, because if ever this narrative is triggered, as we saw in January 2023, we will in fact have a plethora of projects which will sell us artificial intelligence, which will not be artificial intelligence, and which will dump. That doesn't mean that you can't perform on it, mind you. It does mean that you can perform on it, but it does mean that the end result will necessarily be a dump. And so that means that you have to take your profits very quickly if you go on this type of project, which are in any case risky. These are small market caps. What are we at? 50 million diluted, in which we have here an effective retracement. We have here the liquidity which is pending, and we have an imbalance that awaits us in the vicinity of 0.4. Once again, pay very close attention to this type of project. Next to it, we have the Tao of Bittensor, obviously known and recognized, in which we went from 392 to 241, and we went from 51 to 392, almost 400. So obviously, we have had a lot of profits. So a rather classic profit taking. We have a lot of imbalances that have been left. I am in logarithmic. Here we are going to return to classic. You will see that, in fact, there are still many elements which tell us that we are going to trace a little deeper. For me, the 100 mark is going to be very strongly defended, okay? So if we retrace, we will not break the 100. Or in any case, if we break the 100, that means that there is other news and that we will have to really look at the news or on the world of cryptos, see what could happen. Clearly, Bittensor has succeeded in defining itself as the leader and the truly representative element of artificial intelligence for all blockchains, and that is really important. Besides Bytensor, I mainly asked Trax if they were interested to add it here in the tracker which is made available in artificial intelligence. This should be done as soon as it is available on their tool, which allows them to keep and secure cryptos. So as soon as it is available, it will be integrated directly into the tracker. The following principle of Trax is that it is a platform that builds tokenized ETFs on different typologies. And there, we have artificial intelligence, we have the real-world asset, we have those that I created in the top 50, for example, or around certain technologies. But if you actually buy this tracker, directly you will have the performance of the tokens that are present in this tracker, which will be reflected directly in the tracker itself. The very principle of ETFs. Next to it, we have FET, the Fetch.ai token, Fetch.ai. I made a video for you a little while ago on it. We had a great performance, and there we still have a retracement, which is rather consolidated. I expected that we would retrace more on FET. But no, we are holding well. For me, really, the zone to hold will be the 0505, which is a big support zone. If we hold it, that's it to say that we will be able to start rising again very strongly. And there already, you see differences between some in which there was a lot of speculation and profit-taking. Here we still hold much more. There are some who haven't left at all. If we look at Singularity, we sink in too. And for example, if we look at Ali, we still left, but without really having left. And alongside, we have other narratives which will take over, in any case which are strongly linked to artificial intelligence. It will be everything that is decentralized infrastructure in which we will have RNDR, in which we have already had a great performance currently. For me, the area to target here will be the support zone, which confluences with the 05 plus the imbalance which awaits in the 2827 level of RNDR, which is a project to provide GPU computing power, and therefore it is also very interesting for blockchain and for artificial intelligence. Then we will have Akash with his AKT token, which made us a little crazy this week. Take a good look at the difference between a token that breathes and a token that is performing. So here we really have AKT, which is in the process of being uprooted. We have completely exceeded the zone in which we were going to have a sell-off. We saw that we had a small sell-off here. So repurchase of the candle. First candle redemption. Second candle redemption. And then here the consolidation before having the acceleration. For me, the next target is still relatively high if we continue to push well. I think we will stop around the 4 if we continue, and in fact give the possibility of letting Akash continue to perform, namely that we don't have too much movement. When we look here in weekly, we see that we haven't redeemed the wick. So that means that there is perhaps still a little bit of juice here to be able to continue to rise. We will end on Anchor, which is the same token in which we have not broken out. If we look closely, we can see that here we haven't exploded. It's also part of decentralized computing power. So it goes even further. That's absolutely everything. It's decentralized cloud computing in which we are going to do storage. We are going to do power. We are going to do execution. And obviously, when we have data to store in order to be able to do artificial intelligence training, we are going to need this. So all these are narratives. These are cryptos in which you have to be very careful. Sometimes we are on small market caps. Sometimes we are on large market caps. But with already a lot of speculation, and understand that this will be a narrative that will be hyper-speculative. Personally, I tend to tell you that blockchain does not necessarily lend itself to artificial intelligence as such. We have a few use cases, but it is very rare, and so as soon as we add the word artificial intelligence, we will have to ask ourselves the question whether yes or no, it has a utility and a utility greater than something which is centralized, whether in terms of costs, whether in terms of use, or whether in terms of value. And this is where we will perhaps really find some nuggets in terms of use. But that doesn't mean that it's these nuggets that will go directly to hyper-speculation and in which we will make the biggest returns. And we will always have to be very careful in protecting these bags and being careful if we ever have rug pulls, because there will be some. We will have the whole psychological part which will come into account and which we will have to know how to take our profits quickly. I invite you to watch the video I made last week. I'll put it at the end of the video if you're interested, because you shouldn't miss it. Psychologically, it's going to be really, really hard. Understand that from the moment you enter into multiples, which will be x2, x3, x5, x10, x50 for some, you will have to be able to press the sell button and cover your position, or even edge into certain cases, to be able to maintain its level of profit. And this is where preparation in advance really plays its role. Moreover, if you want more information, there is a free guide which is available in comments and descriptions. It is 100 free, 30 pages in which I explain to you how to buy, how to sell, in which case, how to structure your strategy, and behind prepare you for the bull run in description and commentary. and I wish you a great Sunday. If you want to train and really enjoy bull running, it's simple. There is perfect, complete, free training available. It's through an educational journey that teaches you everything about blockchain, crypto, investment, technical analysis, and trading. All this for free in comments and descriptions. You have exercises, multiple choice questions, modules, videos, guides, everything to support you in your progress.